Live from the KDAL studios at Lake and Superior Street in downtown Duluth, it stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award winner Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Featuring cool people from all walks of life. Check out previous show podcasts at KDAL610.com. The phone lines are open at 218-722-0839. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa, with my wingman, Chris Allen.
Good morning.
Chris, you did a great job emceeing the Ukrainian benefit last Wednesday at the Sacred Heart.
Thank you so much. That was such an honor for you to not only ask me to do that, but to be there and witness some of the music, and we have some of that today. I'm so excited to hear it.
And one of the musicians that played.
This is going to be great.
Michael Fritchard, we'll talk all about it. We've got clips from the show that we're going to be playing. But people ask, they go, what do you do on Stars Over the Prairie? Well, we interview stars, people that used to be stars, people that want to be stars, people that don't want to be stars, people that just like to grab a cold one and go out at night and look at stars.
Or grab a cold one and fall over and see stars.
We are broadcasting, speaking of falling over and seeing stars, 237 somersaults down the hill from Bob Dylan's childhood home. They are starting Bob Dylan Week today up in Hibbing in his high school home on 2425 7th Avenue. I'll give you kind of the rundown of what is going on in Dylan Week here in Duluth, including a show I am doing at the newly reopened and refurbished Alhambra Theater, which is right next to the West Theater. I'm doing a salute to Dylan with my old running buddy, harmonica player and vocalist Sonny Earl, along with Greg Inhofer, who played on keyboards on all 5 tracks that Bob Dylan recorded in Minneapolis on Blood on the Tracks.
I'm excited to see that.
It's going to be a great show. And, that Alhambra, the Vaudeville Theater started in 1913, it opened up, and had vaudeville acts. What they used to do, big jugglers and comedians. Then
and the old time comedy, and
silent movies. And I think it went to. I talked to a guy the other night. I think it went to the late '60s, early '70s when it finally closed down. But Bob Boone and his team over there just did an incredible job of rehabbing the place back to its former glory. What's fun, Chris, is that Mark Eskel is one of the lead carpenters on the job. Mm-hmm. Harvested a lot of the material that was at... he was a Virginia high school graduate, 72, graduated with my sister Jackie. I was a VHS grad, 74, actually vice president of the senior class.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had it all going on back then. And
what happened?
It was good question. But so he harvested because they tore down the Goodman Auditorium, which was a beautiful 900-seat auditorium in the Virginia High School. They tore it down, but Mark was able to harvest the lattice from around the stage. So all around the stage is the Alhambra is the lattice from the Goodman Auditorium, sconces that hung on the wall, and then all the black curtains that lined the wall at the Alhambra came from Virginia High School. So there's a little bit of that legacy lives on. In fact, when Bob Boone went up there, when they were figuring out what they could use at the new theater, they found my signature back when I was a performer in the musical No No Nanette.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I've got a deep theatrical history at Virginia High School.
Amazing.
No, I actually...
Multifaceted.
Well, they had a great theater program and music program. And really, my kind of love for performing came from a lot of those theatrical shows because the lights would go down and everybody's in makeup and you could just feel the tension before the curtain goes up. and then boom, then it's just the magic of theater. So I got hooked on this whole routine early on. So I'll be doing that show, A Salute to Dylan, with Sonny and Greg on Tuesday, May 20th. It's only got 60 seats, so if you want to come, I'd suggest getting your tickets now. I think it's half sold out already. There's still tickets available. Just go to West Theater, Google them, and then go to events, and you will find the Salute to Bob Dylan. Well, if you were born today, you got a pretty good year looking ahead. This is what the gods of the horoscopic universe tell us.
Wow.
You're inspired, excellent at promotion and sales, and strong-minded. Music may be a talent or extremely important in your life. When confident, you are radiant, helpful, and a joy to be around. When insecure, however, you might have a tendency to bring others down with you. That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Stubborn yet attuned to progress, there is a well-defined spiritual bent to your personality. It may be too easy to fall into ruts, but your innate intuition and ambition will allow you to rise above these periods of inertia.
Wow, this is, I think I dated her.
And if there is somebody out there that's sales-minded, we here at Stars Over the Prairie would look for a nice kind of part-time salesman to sell ads for us. You can make a nice percentage off everything you sell. We've got a bunch of ad space to sell, and I've had great luck getting advertisers on, but it's a lot of work. So if you are a retired salesman who would like to become a salesman, just give me an email at my personal email, which is paul@paulmetsa.com. And if you're a business that would love to support Stars Over the Prairie, this beautiful 15-month show on KDAL, 2-hour show every Saturday, where we celebrate artists, musicians, poets, authors, and event producers that are going on around town. Also, email me at paul@paulmetsa.com. I always like to look back and see who else was born on this day, Chris Allen.
I like that you pick out a lot of musicians that may be unknown or we didn't know did great things.
Oh, there's a couple of good musicians today, and I've got a story about one of them for sure. But if we go way back in time to 1692,
wow,
a pirate by the name of Bartholomew Roberts, who you might know in your reading and storytelling as Black Bart. Remember that name?
Yeah.
Chris? Yeah. Black Bart was born in 1792. The guy was prolific. He ran heavily from 1719 till he passed in 1722. In that time, he raided over 470 prize ships off the coast of the Americas and the west coast of Africa. That's like a ship every 4th day.
I remember reading about this guy. I don't think he was called a pirate. There was something else because he raided these ships and didn't always profit from them. He made a percentage off of most of them. He was called something else other than a pirate.
Well, whatever he was called, that's a lot of ships to pirate.
Yeah, it is. But I think he was forced to do that. He had worked for the government for a short time, for his government, and then decided that he wanted to keep all the profits and became a pirate.
And that's probably why they started calling him Black Bart.
Yep.
Actually, I used to drink with a guy at Palmer's Bar named Black Bart, a black guy whose name was Bart. Great guy. He was a hippie. Bart was just the man. I love Bart. Miss me, still with us. Hey, Cool Papa Bell, Baseball Hall of Famer, was a center fielder, a 6-time All-Star in the Negro League, lifetime batting average of .337. He was born in 1933 in Starkville, Missouri, and passed away at ripe old age of the late 80s in 1991. Now, who doesn't love actor and producer and director Dennis Hopper? Well,
pretty quiet. I think everybody likes it.
Well, I saw him first in Easy Rider. Of course, he was in Blue Velvet. He was the photographer in Apocalypse Now. He was born in 1936 in Dodge City, Kansas. He passed away in 2010. I actually met him at Farm Aid 5. He was one of the MCs in 1992 down in Dallas, Texas. And, of course, you noticed, if you've been reading the papers, Chris, that Farm Aid is coming to Minneapolis this year.
Yeah.
Playing at Huntington Stadium, which was TCF Stadium, on September 28th. The director of Farm Aid said, yeah, we've been having our ads on Farm Aid in Minnesota for a long time. And I'll tell you why that might be. Because in 1999, a young folk singer and troubadour named Paul Metsa, who had played at Farm Aid 7 years earlier, had an idea to try to bring Farm Aid to Minnesota. So I saw Willie Nelson was playing at Grand Casino, and I called a friend of mine who was promoting the show. He got in touch with Willie. Willie drove down in his bus to the Capitol and took part in a meeting with Governor Jesse Ventura, himself, Willie Nelson, myself, and Doug Groh from the Star Tribune, who wrote an article about it. I just tracked it down in the September 1st edition of the Minneapolis Star Tribune, 1999, September 1, 1999. Mm-hmm. And that was a surreal hour or two at the governor's office.
Bet.
Now, what was interesting, Chris, at the governor's office, very sparse, he had 3 framed pictures on the wall. One, a beautiful black and white picture of Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
A signed album cover by the Rolling Stones, because Jesse did, back when he was, after his wrestling career, he became a bouncer.
Yeah.
And he bounced the Rolling Stones show. So he got to know, and probably got to know when they played, after he got involved with politics. And then, of course, his Navy SEAL accreditation certificate. So Willie came in and wearing his cowboy hat. Jesse's in a suit and tie. And they start talking, and they had very different viewpoints about how the government should take care of farmers. Willie, of course, has raised millions of dollars for the farmers since 1985, since the first Farm Aid show. And I believe this is going to be the 40th anniversary of the first Farm Aid show down in Illinois. But at one point, Chris, Jesse goes to Willie. You know, Willie, when I'm in the barn with the horses, it's Willie Nelson all day long. But once I get back inside and crack that first call one, it's Led Zeppelin. And I mean, you know, it's like, when I grew up there on the Iron Range, I never knew I'd be part of these kind of conversations. It blew my mind. At that moment, it was getting a little tense. Jesse's lovely wife came in and had a bunch of swag from the Minnesota State Fair that laid on Willie, so that kind of chilled things out. And then I got to spend a little time on the bus with Willie afterwards. Anyway, I'm not going to say I planted the seed in anybody's mind for that 1999, but we're more than happy to welcome Farm Aid on September 28th in Minneapolis.
I would take credit for it.
Huh?
I would take credit for it if I were you.
I just did, I think.
Now, don't say, it might not have been me. Say, it was me during that meeting that suggested.
I put it into the cosmos.
Yeah.
And the wheels started to turn.
There you go.
Hey, other big birthdays today. 1942, one of my favorite all-time blues and folk musicians, vocalist, multi-instrumentalist, Taj Mahal.
Yes.
Was born. His birth name was Henry St. Clair Fredericks. He was born in Harlem, New York. I did my very first gig opening up for Taj Mahal at the North Shore Theater in 1984.
Really?
It was a phenomenal show. The North Shore wasn't quite back to its former glory. It wasn't in disrepair, but they, of course, have just totally rehabbed. In fact, I'm going to see Leo Kottke there on the 28th. I can't wait because Leo's one of my heroes. But so I did about a 35, 40-minute opening set. Taj just 2.5 hours. He gets done with the show. There was a little, right on the corner, there was a little coffee shop. Now it's where Bell Bank is. Mm-hmm. And then Greg Nelson had his guitar shop there for a while. But it was a coffee shop with music. And the great Dave Snaker Ray was playing. And Dave and Taj Mahal go way back. So Taj went and sat in with Dave for about an hour. So now he's got about 3.5 hours of music under his belt. After Dave's gig, Taj and myself and John Moore and Laurie Hatton, John and Laurie ran the Amazing Grace Cafe for a long time and actually did a great job at the Ukrainian benefit last Wednesday. We went up to their house for the after party, which started at about midnight, grabbed our guitar, started playing again. So Taj has got 3.5 hours into him. I sat across from him for 3 hours, and we were all playing. I'd sing a song, Taj would sing a song, John and Laurie would sing a song.
Kind of in a round.
Yeah, in a round, and there was a couple other musicians there. I'll never forget because Taj had a button that said 40 and feeling sexy. So Taj is 80, at 80 years old now, 81. And
he's feeling hot.
Yeah, and I think he's got a lot of kids. Anyway, so at about 3 a.m, I remember I did a version of the old folk song Fenario, also known as Peggio, and Taj hadn't heard it in years. He knew a couple of verses, but I knew all of them at the time. So Taj thanked me for hearing those verses again. And finally, at about 3 a.m, man, I was beat. I had driven up that afternoon and exciting, the first big show under my first name because I just released my record, Paper Tigers. Finally, I looked at Taj. I said, Taj, you win. I got to go back to the hotel because I'm really, really tired. And I guess he played till the sun came up.
Wow.
He's just a machine.
What an experience. Two of them that we heard about.
Yeah, no, it was, I've been around the block a few times.
Right.
Hey, one of America's favorite comedians, Bob Saget, who, of course, acted in Full House and hosted America's Funniest Videos, was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1956. Unfortunately, passed away in 2022.
Yeah,
tragically. You must have loved Saget.
Yeah. He was actually a really good but awful blue comedian.
Yeah, no, he had
a lot of people didn't know that. Yeah, he was very clean as a whistle on his show, but then when he did his comedy stuff, look out.
But boy, when he passed, every comedian worth their salt gave him just major props. And he was also good with upcoming comedians.
Yeah, he started a lot of careers. There were a lot of people that came forward that said, if it wasn't for Bob, I wouldn't be here.
And then one of the great boxers with a great name and who was turning 69 years old today. Happy birthday to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Great man, great boxer.
Yeah. Fast, man. Guy was fast. Hey, we've got the Duluth Dillon Fest 2025 is just starting today. They're having a big party. Or actually, it's tomorrow, Sunday, May 18th. They're having a brief birthday celebration on the lawn of Bob Dylan's, boyhood home. Yeah. Oh, this will be in Duluth on Sunday, May 18th, which is tomorrow, which is right up the hill. Just Google, I should know, I lived there. I think it was 517.
Google 237 somersaults, and it'll bring you right there. I think if you put it on Google Maps.
I lived there for the first year I moved to Minneapolis. I think it's, Google it, I think it was 517 North 3rd Avenue East. But Google it. So that is going to be going on in the afternoon from... let's see here. No, that's going to be happening in Hibbing. Pardon me, Sunday, May 18th.
So it's at that house?
Yeah, up at Bill Pagel owns both houses. He was my landlord when I lived at Dylan's house down here. But that's the pre-fest party tomorrow. They've got a tour of the Hibbing High School, which I highly recommend. That high school was built in 1924 for $4 million.
Which would have been a lot of money now.
It would be a lot of money now. The party's taking place at 2425 7th Avenue East. And my friends Gina LaFond and Amy Grillo are going to be playing there from 10 until 11 a.m. Free event. And you can pre-register for the tour at Eventbrite. Then down here in Tilt Town, Monday, May 19th, the Dylan Fest Acoustic Jam Session with host Leslie Black. Bring your voice or your favorite music instrument to Carmody's Irish Pub, where I have just started playing on Friday nights. Started last night, 308 East Superior Street in downtown Duluth. That is free, goes from 5:30 to 8:30. So go sing some Bob Dylan songs down with Eddie and Liz at Carmody's. Tuesday, May 20th, before our Salute to Dylan at the Alhambra, they're going to have All Along the Turntable with DJ Stagger Lee. He has a great curated collection of Bob Dylan's releases that he's going to be playing at Musso's Concert Cafe, 324 North Central Avenue in Duluth from 6:30 to 8. That's a free show. And then come across the street and see our Salute to Dylan with Paul Metsa, Sonny Earl, and Greg Inhofer at the newly refurbished Alhambra Theater. Wednesday, May 21st, Molly and the Danger Band. Do you know those guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they are...
Is that Molly Shearer?
You tell me. Molly Otis.
Molly
singer,
Otis,
yeah.
okay. So her band used to be the Dangerous Band, maybe, or something like that. That's why I thought it was her.
A lot of Molly's, a lot of Dangerous bands. Well, she's a singer-songwriter, fiddle, mandolin, guitar player, and she fronted the power country group Molly and the Haymakers.
That is Molly Shearer.
Yeah. God, I haven't seen her in years.
That's what I thought. That was her band. Yeah.
They're going to be over in Superior at the Cedar Lounge. I'm going to be doing some Wednesdays there in June. That's at 115 North 3rd Street, Superior, Wisconsin. Limited reserve tables, and get tickets through Eventbrite.
You know, I played guitar for Molly and the Haymakers.
You did?
For Grandma's Big Top. I sat in for Mountain of Love. And then I played a Stevie Ray Vaughan tune with them.
Cool.
Yeah.
And their drummer Joe now is playing guitar. He's got a little gig over at the Thirsty Pagan, I think, on Saturday afternoons with a woman that I met at the show, Sarah Jane Hill, who's a great singer. Thursday, May 26th, the Duluth Dylan Fest Dance Party with Cowboy Angel Blue. They're buddies of mine from the Iron Range. They're going to be at Mr. D's Bar and Grill at 5622 Grand Avenue, Duluth, from 7 to 10 o'clock. Thursday, May 22nd. That's a free event. On Friday, May 23rd, the Dylan Fest Singer-Songwriter Contest at the Sacred Heart Music Center. It's at 201 West 4th Street in Duluth. That goes from 7 to 10 p.m. Tickets are $10 in advance, $15 at the door. Get them through Eventbrite. And then Saturday, May 24th, this is fun. The Dylan Front Porch Birthday Party with live music by Greg Tabersi and at Bob Dylan's childhood home, which is at, I should know this by heart because I lived there for a year, 519 North 3rd Avenue East. Goes from 11 to 12:30. It's free. Last year they had cupcakes. So go get yourself a cupcake. Get a picture of yourself in front of the house. They painted it a couple years ago back to its original paint job. It's in great shape.
Nice.
Then, of course, the John Bushy Memorial Lecture. Master of Peace in a Time of War, Bob Dylan. The lecture by Steve Potts, author, historian, and teacher, will be at Musso's Concert Cafe that same afternoon at 324 North Central Avenue in Duluth from 1:30 to 3 p.m. That is free. Shelter from the Storm concert featuring Jane Oz, Peter Oz, Mike Bernier, Garth Anderson, Jordan Ash, and Todd James will be once again at the Sacred Heart Music Center from 7 to 10 p.m. Tickets $20 in advance, $25 at the door. Get your tickets on Eventbrite. And then the Highway 61 Revisited radio show, which of course is on every Saturday on the North 103.3 FM. I will be the guest tonight.
Nice.
I taped it on Thursday with Miriam, who took over from John Bushy. We played some of my favorite Dylan songs, and I told some of my favorite Dylan stories. So I'm going to be on 2 radio shows on the same day.
Nice.
Reminding me that old Firesign Theater bit. How can you be in 2 places at once when you're nowhere at all?
I always say I talk out of my behind when people hear me.
And then the Farewell Brunch featuring live music by Greg Tabersi once again at Musso's Concert Cafe. Once again, they're at 324 North Central Avenue in Duluth from 11 to 12:30 p.m., and that will be Sunday, May 25th. Let's hear from our sponsors who keep the show on the air, and then we are going to come on with our guest, Michael Furchert.
Yeah.
I needed you to pronounce it because it's German and I wasn't sure. So we'll be on with Michael Furchert after these messages.
I'm Sydney, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. Oh, man. Camping and like being able to look up at the stars or like wake up to the stars or wake up to the sun and not have to kind of fumble around to see where my glasses are. So I'm looking forward to that. Eventually it's like getting out and enjoying nature with sort of no barrier. Oh, the staff were really great. Yeah, it was really, always felt pretty taken care of and very friendly staff, and they were answering my questions even if they were like really, really trivial. It's something that you gotta have like sort of a bit of trust in this doctor.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today or visit weisseyecenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
If you're looking for a great hang in downtown Duluth, I highly suggest Carmody's Irish Pub. They're located at 308 East Superior Street, open Tuesday through Sunday. The host and hostess are Eddie and Liz. Eddie is a retired Chicago cop. If he happens to be in the club when you're there, talk to him. He's got more stories than I do. They've also got a great jam session every Tuesday night from 8 to 11 with Bruce Woodman. So if you're a musician, tried and true that has been out there playing and just want to go try out some new stuff, go down and hang out with Bruce and the crew. Or if you're just up and coming, bring your horn or your stringed instrument or just want to sing. Go sit in with Bruce Woodman every Tuesday night at Carmody's Pub, 308 East Superior Street.
River City Records and Books, voted Best Record Store of 2023 in the Twin Ports by the Duluth Reader, has in stock thousands of new and used vinyl records, from classic rock to punk, grunge, and metal, to hip-hop, rap, jazz, reggae, and dub. Thousands of books, CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray, and VHS. Also a large selection of cassettes, comic books, and music magazines. Stop in and see them at 1814 West Superior Street in the friendly Lincoln Park Craft District. Open 9 to 7, 7 days a week.
Every day deserves a superior beer. Earth Rider Brewery's decorated brewers hand-select hops that lend citrus notes to the crisp and easy-drinking Superior Pale Ale. Visit Earth Rider Brewery's Cedar Lounge Taproom on the Working Harbor in Superior for their award-winning flagship and seasonal brews on tap and to go. To find out much more about Earth Rider Brewery events, join the mailing list and locate Earth Rider Beer near you at earthrider.beer. Hold fast.
Gray Wolf Lodge, located on gorgeous Pelican Lake in beautiful Orr, is the great getaway in northern Minnesota. Featuring affordable, modernized cabins that rent by the week or even a few days, Gray Wolf Lodge is your place to treat the family or just yourself for a relaxing time away from it all. With great fishing, yoga classes, massage, boat rentals, a sandy beach, a common gathering area with a fire pit, and the gorgeous and rustic Gray Wolf Lodge, hosts John and Carol have thought of everything for your unforgettable stay. Give them a call at 1-800-840-9653 or go to graywolflodge.com to see all that they have to offer. Gray Wolf Lodge, your home away from home in the North Woods.
很高兴跟你 Paul Metsa 一块儿在 Stars of the Prairie 跟你聊天儿。
News Talk KDAL. Now back to Stars Over the Prairie with Paul Metsa.
You are back with Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa. We've got two musicians in the studio today. James Dealey, an East Coast rocker now living in Ashland, Wisconsin, is going to play some live music for us in the second set. Throughout the show, we're going to be playing clips from the beautiful night of music we had on Wednesday, May 14th at the Sacred Heart Music Center for a benefit for Ukraine, when we had musicians such as myself, Mark and Nancy Rubin, Aaron Aldrich, John Ward and Laurie Hatton, Whiskey River, Timothy Martin, Brianna Tepler, Sonia Martin, Lisa Wilson, the Mann Brothers, Superior Simon, George Ellsworth, the Climbs, and the Duluth Superior Harbor Masters. And the day before the event, I got a message from Mark Nisklowski, who runs the show up there at Sacred Heart, and said, hey, there's a musician down here that teaches, and he's a great piano player, and he would like to be part of the event. And in fact, he had some history raising money for Ukraine, and so we fit him into the packed schedule. But I listened to some of his music, and he was great. And that's you just heard him play, and he is with us today. I'm going to pronounce his name as Michael for sure. But Michael, how do you pronounce your name?
Oh, all right, if you want to hear it in German.
Let's hear it in German.
Do it. In German, it would be Michael Furchert. And in English, maybe Michael Furchert, or just call me Michael the German. I'm fine with that, too.
Well, Michael, how about if I call you Michael, my new friend?
Call me Michael, your new friend. Yes, Paul. It's very nice to be here, Paul and Chris, on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me. What a privilege to be here with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you. It was great listening to you play. It was really rounded out. We had Aaron Aldrich, probably one of the greatest violin players in the Twin Ports, if not all of Minnesota, with her take on classical music, and then with a solo piece, and then of course she played with Superior Simon, which was gorgeous. But you had your own take on it. When did you start playing? Let's go back. You're from Germany. Where were you born in Germany? How did you get to Duluth? And then tell us that, and then we'll talk about your musical background.
All right. So I was born behind the Berlin Wall of communist East Germany under dictatorship, under Russian occupation. The Soviet Union was occupying our country, just as they're doing in the part of the Ukraine right now. I was born outside of the city of East Berlin, and grew up deprived of freedom and liberty. And we looked to America, the country of freedom, and talking about music, we would always kind of jokingly say in East Germany, behind the Berlin Wall, looking to America. In America, they have Bob Hope and Stevie Wonder and Johnny Cash. And in East Germany, we have no Hope, no Wonder, and no Cash. and life was very simple behind the Berlin Wall. And, of course, then the persecution, the discrimination, the oppression that we had to endure. But I remember, I started playing piano when I was 8 years old. I was trained in classical piano. I went to a music school. And I wasn't too good, to be honest. I always wanted to bring in my own style, my own feelings, my own emotions, and that wasn't really appreciated by my teacher. And so he thought I should rather become a plumber instead of a musician. And so I left quite discouraged from music school, and it wasn't until I found the gift of improvisation that I realized that what is inside of me, the ability to create music on my own, the ability to express myself, to tell my story through music, the ability to just sit down at a piano and start playing without sheet music and create my own music. And that was a wonderful experience. But I also remember that growing up behind the Berlin Wall, as teenagers, we would sing the song of Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind. We sang this as a song of resistance to oppose dictatorship and as a plea to freedom and liberty, because there are so many powerful lines in this song. How many years can some people exist before they are allowed to be free? That was our question behind the Berlin Wall. When can we be free? How long do we have to live behind the Iron Curtain, behind a 12 feet tall concrete barrier with barbed wire, electric fences, hidden landmines in the ground, armed soldiers on high security towers guarding it day and night?
Wow!
You couldn't cross the wall. You were shot and killed. families were separated, our city was separated, our country was separated. And so we asked that question, how long can some people exist before they are allowed to be free? Or another powerful question in Bob Dylan's song, how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? How easy is it for us to just turn the other way when we see injustice and just pretend we don't hear the cries of our fellow people around us? And he has these powerful questions in his song. And so we were, or the other question, how many deaths will it take till we know that too many people have died?
Yeah.
You know, and a powerful statement against war and aggression, which we experienced in East Germany, the aggression of the Soviet Union that came and conquered and occupied our land. And as we were singing this song, again and again as teenagers, a way of protesting injustice and a plea for freedom and liberty, I had no idea that one day I would be free, that one day I would see the Berlin Wall come down, that one day I would live in America, and that one day I would live in the very city where Bob Dylan was born, in Duluth, Minnesota. And now it all comes back together full circle. And it was so interesting yesterday as I was promoting your show on social media. I was just randomly grabbing off from YouTube a song of Bob Dylan singing Blowing in the Wind. And I put it on. And he started his performance by dedicating the song to the people of Duluth, Minnesota. And out of all those songs that were available on YouTube, and here again it comes back for a circle, and I find this so interesting how a musician here in the USA probably had no idea how his music impacted people on the other side of the world in a completely different society, different government system under oppression. And that's the power in music. And that's my encouragement to all musicians. You have a message to share. You can make a difference. Even on the other side of the world, in the hearts of people, you can give them hope, encouragement, inspiration, courage to stand, courage to endure. And that is what we experienced behind the Berlin Wall, the courage to endure. And I took part in the peaceful revolution when I was 17 years old. It was a movement that was started as a faith-led movement in the East German churches, and it inspired a nationwide movement of peaceful protest that would finally bring down the Berlin Wall and bring us freedom and liberty. And the artists and the musicians, they were so much part of this movement.
Wow. I don't think anybody knows when they write a song how it's going to affect people. I mean, you hope that somebody digs it because you do, but when you write it, you have no idea. And I don't even think, Paul, when you write a song, you aren't saying, well, I'm going to inspire thousands of people.
I would, I just want to inspire myself to get done writing it.
Yeah.
You know, and then whatever you put it out there in the world. In fact, I'm thinking about, I've got probably since I started recording in 84, probably 12 or 13 socially conscious tunes. Some might call them, some of them protest music. I'm thinking about putting out a compilation CD because we're going through such tumultuous and dark political times, along with the songbook.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't even necessarily have to. It helps to hear the song, play the music, but if they could just get the sheet music, the chord changes, and the lyrics, they could do that. It's a great way to get the word out there. But when you were, Michael, talking about the coincidence of you growing up listening to Bob Dylan and living in Duluth, my all-time favorite Bob Dylan line from It's All Over Now, Baby Blue is, take what you have gathered from coincidence.
Well, there you go.
You know, and speaking of American musicians' influences overseas, I had just a wonderful journey I played in Novosibirsk, Siberia in 1999. I met a guy from Minneapolis who moved to Moscow, married a woman from Moscow. Her original home was in Novosibirsk, Siberia. He was an entrepreneur, so they moved there where they were starting to raise kids. And he bought a nightclub called the New York Times. And just a little that was coming. Nightclub might be putting it too properly. It was really kind of a place where you could get liquor and pizza. But it was a cool club. They had a jazz band on the weekends and a blues band all week long. So he hired me to go over there and play. And it was a long trip. I mean, it was 24 hours long. And his mother we met, and because she had, I'm not kidding, about a 70-pound duffel bag full of dolls for her grandkids, right? And back in the day when you get 30 Barbie dolls, not these days when you just get 2. But anyway, so I had my guitar, I was wearing cowboy boots, my leather jacket, and this 70-pound duffel bag of dolls and other things, of which I had to throw a couple of the dolls away because it was overweight going through the customs. But anyway, so I fly out to New York, and then it's a long layover, and then I fly to Moscow, and it's another long layover. Now, when you get to Moscow, everybody, you're going to run into people who speak English. But from Moscow to Siberia, man, you are on your own. And this was before any of these apps where you could translate. So we were flying to Siberia. I think by now it was probably 5 or 6 in the afternoon. It's still another 5 hours to Siberia. So I got in the back of the plane, back when you could still smoke, and I'm sitting next to this old codger who looked like, the only way I could describe him is he was dressed like a peasant. He had very simple, like farmer jeans on and little white rim glasses, and he had Walkman headphones on. And so I'm sitting next to him, and he's bopping his head. He's listening to music. And he pulls out of his pocket this half pint of clear liquid. I think it was just homebrew moonshine. And he gave me a pull, and we're smoking cigarettes together. And so I pointed to him to see what he was listening to, and I put on the headphones, and just as I put on the headphones, the lines came on. And I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. He was listening to Johnny Cash, and so there you go. I wrote a letter to the editor about it to No Depression magazine. I said, Johnny Cash, I said, the Berlin Wall be damned. What was that like, Michael, when the Berlin Wall finally came down?
It was absolutely incredible. I remember the peaceful revolution, how people protested in the streets peacefully with burning candles, singing songs, singing hymns, standing against an army, against tanks and armed soldiers, an overwhelming force, and we had no chance, standing with burning candles and against an armed army. But there were some people that had the courage to take a flower and put it into the muzzle of a soldier's gun.
Right.
And the soldier would just stand there. Some just stand with stoic looks. Some would start crying. And they were unable to open fire against their own people. And in the end, the pressure of the peaceful revolution made the communist regime buckle. The Berlin Wall came down. We gained freedom and liberty. And our family, we stepped together over the rubble of the Berlin Wall into a free life. And that was absolutely incredible. And then 10 years later, I was already in America, and I started to share my story with people across the country, and I started to play my music. And for the past 25 years, I've been touring the United States and performing my music and sharing my story across this country in many beautiful states. But not playing my classical music anymore, but playing piano improvisation, my own music, to just be able to sit down and play and tell my story through music. And that is what I do now as I teach kids to do piano improvisation. I have this great privilege to be working at the Music Resource Center now that meets at Sacred Heart. And we work with children from elementary school, middle school, high school, and give them a place to hang out, to be themselves, to discover their musical abilities, but also to take lessons. And I teach piano improvisation. And I have some very talented students. I'm so proud of them. I don't know if I can just give a shout out to them.
Yes,
yes,
please
all righty. My wonderful students, Eileen and Cosette and Isaiah and Ruby and Wylan and Yarrow and Owen. I love you guys. I'm very proud of you. You're so talented. I enjoy working with you. It's a great privilege to help you develop and explore your musical abilities. And it is my great hope that you too will become artists that share music that can inspire lives, touch lives, and make a difference in the lives of others. And so I have this great privilege to teach kids to just sit down at the piano and start playing. And we have kids that just took lessons for half a year or 1 year, and I play almost concert-style music with them because I don't teach them to read notes, but to see patterns in the piano, to see patterns in chords, and to just start playing and use these patterns and apply these patterns across the keyboard and just bring in their own ideas, their own emotions, their own their own stories, and tell a story through music. And we have so much fun, and we just keep jamming out together. And actually, on Tuesday, June 3rd, we will put on the first ever piano improvisation showcase for the Music Resource Center. It starts at doors open at 5. It starts at 5:30 till 7. And it's a chance for these students that I just gave a shout out to show what they have learned to their parents, to their friends, to those that we invite that might be interested in piano improvisation. It's not going to be a professional concert performance, but we are just going to show what we have learned with these kids and make music together and jam and have a great time and have fun. And we are really looking forward to this. And it's a great privilege now for me to be able to pass on the ability to improvise to others and allow others to develop into musical artists, not just musicians, but artists that tell a story.
I love that approach, Michael, because I started taking guitar lessons when I was in second grade, and I always had trouble learning the notes right off the bat. I mean, now if you put a gun in my head and a bottle of whiskey in front of me, maybe I can get through a simple Bach piece, But really, I finally found an instructor named Dennis Monroe, and he taught me by ear. And then I could get, boom, you could start playing music right off the bat. So, and I've taught on and off over the years, and I have just found that the sooner you can get a student playing, the better off it's going to be for them and for you. Because I think that's what anybody that's studying an instrument, what they want to do is just learn how to play rather than trying to line up those little dots on the paper where their hands are supposed to go.
Exactly, and that's what I'm doing right now. We have taken a classical piece, very famous, from Ludwig van Beethoven, Für Elise, or For Elise in English. And if you want to play this, you have to, first off, learn to read notes. Then you have to take these notes and try to find out how do they align with the keys on the piano. And then you have to practice and practice and practice. And then you will always play it wrong. And if you don't practice it for a few weeks, you can't play it anymore. So what I did, I took my students and we analyzed the piece for chord structures. And then we started to see the chord structures in there. And then we had a flute. Ruby was playing the flute. And then the kids were just improvising the accompaniment. And they were playing Für Elise improvised, and suddenly they were just having this breakthrough and playing beautiful music. And then I said, okay, we know how to take a simple chord and turn it into a jazz chord, right?
Yeah.
And now let's do this with Für Elise. And suddenly we turned this classical piece into a jazz piece. And we played Für Elise jazz style.
Cool.
Without any notes, just understanding the chord structure and understanding the jazz structure. And they were jamming Für Elise as jazz, and I just stood there. I was beaming, I was smiling to just see what came out of these kids, right? Without any notes. And so, we will play this at the Piano Improvisation Showcase, Für Elise, jazz style, improvised, as one of many songs.
And you didn't hear in the background this small, the rhythmic sound going along with it, which was Beethoven rolling in his grave?
Oh, by the way, do you know what Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is doing now?
No.
Decomposing.
But where is it? Where good?
So, there we go.
Thank you.
I've been wanting to get that since we started the show. Thank you, Chris Allen, my wingman. We just have a few minutes left. What has been your experience when you finally got over here to really feel American freedom as opposed to what you grew up under?
Well, it was overwhelming. Freedom. First of all, I realized how easy it is for people to take their freedoms for granted.
There you go.
And I challenged them, don't take your freedoms for granted. Many people had to fight for their freedoms. Your forefathers had to fight for their freedoms. My family had to fight for their freedoms. Don't take freedom for granted. It's a privilege. But also use freedom in a responsible way to make right and responsible choices, so that you don't actually become a prisoner of your own freedom by making wrong choices and ending up in, drug addiction or all kind of things. Make right, responsible choices with your freedom. Use it in positive ways. And so this is kind of my message. Freedom is a privilege, but it often comes with a cost, and don't take it for granted.
Well, that's one of the reasons why because we all know, without getting too political, what sort of freedoms are being taken away now. And one of the reasons why I put on the show, number one reason was to raise money for Nova Ukraine, which has been on the ground in Ukraine since 2014, since Crimea was invaded. Secondly, people need to go out with their neighbors and people they haven't met and be in a peaceful setting where they can just enjoy beautiful music. And as you told me this morning when you came in, and Chris, who emceed it, how beautiful that night of music was at the Sacred Heart on Wednesday. But then thirdly, one of my points was to start to inspire and let Americans know here, when our freedoms really are under the gun, that it is important to fight at least half as hard for our freedom and our democracy here as the Ukrainians have been fighting for their democracy there.
Yes, it's so easy for freedom to slip away, and we have to be cautious. We have to be careful, and we have to have the courage to take a stand. And that is what I said when I played my piece at this beautiful event. And Paul, I really have to say, and Chris too, you put together such a wonderful concert. It lasted 3.5 hours, and people stayed until the end, and I would have stayed longer.
And they didn't leave after that, too. Yes, they hung around afterwards.
It was such a beautiful lineup of musicians, and they were all different styles and different genres and different instruments and different emotions. Nothing felt repetitive. It was just so wonderful. And I know Chris asked me if I would want to sit in the green room and then come out from the green room, but I just enjoyed sitting among the audience and taking it in. It was such a beautiful event. It was so great to be part of this. Yeah, thank you so much for that opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. And then you can actually, if you go to the sacredheartmusic.org, the video of the show, the live stream, is up. Well, Michael, this has been such a great chance to get to know you a little better. We just had a few minutes to chat on Wednesday. We've got James Dealey coming up. He's going to play live. He's a great singer-songwriter. From Jersey originally, New Jersey, and now he's living in Ashland, Wisconsin. So he's going to be bringing his guitar, and we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be playing some clips from the great musicians from the Benefit for Ukraine. Stay tuned to Stars Over the Prairie. We'll be back after these messages.
Stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight. And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight. And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars.
Live, it's Stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award-winning songwriter, musician, author, and historian, Paul Metsa. Check out previous show podcasts at KDAL610.com. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
I try to show them how to be somebody who cares. Once again, this life I live ain't getting me nowhere.
You know what? We've got a great musician in the studio. We're going to have him on a little later, but he's got a busy day. That was a little bit of James Dealey. I met him for the first time last night. Grew up in Jersey, ended up in Hollywood, and he brought his guitar, and he's going to be playing a little bit for us today. James, I don't know when you reached out to me, but we had several things in common. Number one, you had the great Gary Talent from the E Street Band play bass on these last sessions, this last record you did. And then a fellow who I haven't met personally, but I'm very familiar with, musician and producer Eric Amble. And his just hung out with his lovely wife, Mary Lee Cordes, down at the Shelter from the Storm concert celebrating Bob Dylan's 50th anniversary of Blood on the Tracks, which was a great show. And he produced your last record. So how did, first of all, good morning. And how did you meet Amble and the band, those guys in the first place? Was it your East Coast rock and roll years?
Yeah, it was like the Lower East Side in New York City, and the Del Lords were just popping. They were rocking the hell out of the Lower East Side, and we met them, and when they'd come down to Jersey, we would open up for them. And then Roscoe Eric played on a couple songs of mine on my second album, which I did at Gary Talent's studio in Long Branch. So we all kind of go back to that 80s rock and roll thing.
Did you ever hang out with the Smithereens?
Yeah.
Pat Denizio was my very first gig at Folk City in June of 86. I always like to go to, especially when I'm in another town, I like to go to wherever I'm going to play just to get a feel for the room. Right. And so I went to Folk City, of course, the legendary Folk City, and Pat was working sound. And also he'd work the door occasionally. And then later that, I knew he was in I knew he was in the Smithereens, but then later that year, I don't remember what song really blew up for them, but boom, all of a sudden, man, they were getting played on college radio all over the country.
It was probably Blood and Roses.
Yeah, that great song.
That was their big breakthrough.
Yeah.
But they played for years at Kenny's Castaway around the corner from
Sure. I did one show there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great place. The whole area right there, McDougal. I mean, that's where Bob Dylan, became Bob Dylan.
Yeah, well, the nice thing, I was just talking to someone yesterday about that. The beautiful thing about the West Village, now you go to New York, it's getting very gentrified. Yeah. And the thing, when I was in San Francisco back in 2007, what I loved about San Francisco, they didn't have enough money to tear down all those beautiful old buildings and gentrified. But New York, a lot of parts of the city are being gentrified. Right. But when you walk down the streets of the West Village, you walk down 4th Street, that part of 6th Avenue, and Bleecker, McDougal, all of that stuff, those buildings are still there. The businesses have changed. Right. But the buildings, so you can still pretend you're walking down the street in 1961 and thinking you might bump into Bob Dylan at Cafe Reggio, which is still there.
And that's why I love this area. It seems like you don't tear anything down up here.
Yeah.
You go down to Ashland up here. It's all these old buildings, the old silos out there on the lake.
Now, what was the name of your band out on the East Coast?
It was James Dealey and the Valiants.
Okay.
And I did that, through the 80s, and then there was a change in the music scene with the rap coming in and grunge and stuff, and I went down south in Florida and played down there for a while. Then I made my way out to L.A., and now I've made my way back up into this area.
Wow, I remember, I think it was 1986 or 87 when rap had been going on in parts of New York since the early 70s.
Right.
But it was really coming into popular consciousness. And I was at a new music seminar. I don't know if you did any of those things out there. Every year there was a big meeting of the musical minds, and there'd be showcases all around town. But they had a bunch of rappers there. And so white people could actually now go hear rap and not have to go too far out of there to get into the hood to hear it. And African Bambaataa was there. I remember just speaking with him. But I remember one of the great lines about rap. And I don't buy rap, but I'll listen to it. I mean, this is some really great rap. And but I remember when it first came on in about 1990, they asked Tony Bennett about, the greatest crooner next to Frank Sinatra, if not along with Frank Sinatra. So, Tony, what do you think about all this rap music? And Tony, ever the diplomat, goes, man, he goes, I just keep waiting for that second note.
It never comes.
Although you got guys like Kendrick Lamar and the rest are just blowing it up. And my friend Dessa, who's a great rapper and writer from Minneapolis, who I just had on the show last week. I mean, there's some stuff that I really love, but there's so much other music I listen to. It's like you only have so much time during the day to listen to music, and I spent my whole life listening to it. It's just like, how much time do I got left? I got to be very particular about what I'm going to be listening to in these waning days of my existence. What did you grow up listening to there in New Jersey?
Well, we had a wonderful music scene. There was Bruce Springsteen was there, Southside Johnny, the Smithereens, a band called the Red House with a friend of mine, Bruce Tunkel. And it was just
his name shows up a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I did a gig at the Stone Pony in 2001, and he played on that.
Oh, really?
Is he a guitar player?
He's a writer, producer, musician.
Yeah, he was on. I think I still have the set list from that.
Oh, really?
And I believe because I saw him, he played on, or did whatever on your record, and so I remember him from that set list. Do you know a guy named Joe Durso?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Joe's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah.
He's the one that pulled me onto that gig at the Stone Pony. When my friend Tony Rubin and I stole a bar stool from the...
See, Bruce Tunkel for me is the guy behind the curtain, pulling all the strings, and he takes everything and mixes it up and puts it in a particular place.
Puts the magic on, puts the fairy dust on it.
I always tell people he's a genius because he can make me sound so good. Yeah.
Well, just to finish what I'm saying, we stole a bar stool from the Stone Point. We went around the back. It was actually, I think, there to be repaired. We didn't take it right out of the bar, but had to go over about a 25-foot chain link fence, and then for some reason took it apart and flew it back to Minneapolis. And
really?
now I still have parts of it in my garage in Lincoln Park. I don't know, just one of those.
Put it on eBay.
It's one of those Southern Comfort fueled evenings that I kind of remember. So, did you, was Bruce sitting in back then? Did you ever catch any boss sitting in at any of the clubs?
Yeah, the thing I remember most, though, is he was quite the drinker.
Really?
On those nights when he would end up at the Pony.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't want to buy Bruce Springsteen a shot?
I don't think he paid for anything in that club. Yeah. I mean, he really, the owners would go around, and go, hey, I heard a rumor, don't tell anybody. But Bruce,
right.
And the place would be packed.
Right.
I was there a couple nights when he didn't show up, and it wasn't pretty.
Well, it was, he was supposed to... it was the day his record, Live in New York City, came out.
Right.
And he was actually, he was at his farm, he was off the road, and was supposed to show up that night. But it was packed anyway, because it was a great show with Kunkel and Joe Durso and myself, who nobody knew who I was in the Asbury Park. But boy, we had a good time out there. But hey, as long as you brought your guitar, let's hear a song.
I have Doyle Bramhall's Little Martin guitar.
You're kidding me.
Don't tell him that I have his guitar here today, because I'll get in a lot of trouble.
Doyle Jr.?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I booked Doyle Sr.
Yeah, he's gone.
I know. Yeah, I booked him at Famous Dave's.
Dimples.
Yeah, he wrote. What were the songs he wrote for Stevie Ray? Do you remember those?
Life by the Drop was one of them. House is Rockin'.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to the early stuff with him, it sounds like Stevie copped, Doyle Sr.'s act.
Yeah.
His vocal style and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's a drummer, man. Yeah. One of those drummers that sang really, really well.
Yeah. And now Doyle plays, he's the road guitarist for Eric Clapton.
Well, how did you steal his guitar?
I can't tell you. Let's just say this.
We might have to get out of here before the guitar
Maybe
version.
Maybe we should steal his guitar.
Yeah. For the guitar version of Ice shows up to take us all away.
Let's put it this way. I worked in a storage facility in Los Angeles.
That's all we'll say. But he plays left-handed, so you must have to restring it.
He actually plays left-handed, but he leaves it like this.
Upside down.
He just flips it over.
Oh, one of those
nuts. The E string is on the top.
One of those insane people.
Like Albert King.
Yeah. Well, let's hear what you got there, James Dealey.
Okay, this is a song called A Harder Road. I wrote it for my grandfathers, and we were talking about how, people tear stuff down in New York and all over the place. And you look out the windows here, and you see the silos and the harbor and all that stuff still here. And you think about the men that built those places.
Yeah, right.
And the life they had that provided an easier life for us. So this is for James Patrick Dealey and Henry Learbergen. He came up hard along the south side, and nothing but nickels in his hands. He made his way through all the hard times. He made his way
through this hard land. He saw the hillsides rage with fire. He saw the mountains in the spring. He felt the snow fall down around us. He felt the pain of the fire sting. So don't tell me about your problems, and don't tell me how bad you hurt. You see, a friend of mine left here this morning down a harder road few have felt, down a harder road. Down a harder road. So take that sadness from your eyes, Annie. There's no time to be sad. Hey, though I know your man has left you, a better man if you have had. So don't tell me about your problems, and don't tell me how bad you hurt. You see, a friend of mine left here this morning down a harder road you have felt, down a harder road.
Man, James Dealey, that was very, very nice, man.
Thank you, sir.
Say, I kind of, first of all, before we forget, what's the website?
I'm at James Dealey Music at bandcamp.com.
Okay, and that's DEELY. Okay. And where are you playing around town, or Ashland? Where are you playing?
So right now I'm finishing this record that I did in Nashville. It's called the Nashville Sessions. And that's what that single was. The first single is Try My Luck.
Cool.
And so I'm finishing that, and then after that I plan on going to Nashville and New York. And I've been playing in Ireland lately, so I'll go back over there. Hopefully I'll see my buddy
Eddie Gleason.
Eddie.
He's the man. Eddie is the man. Well, I'm so glad you got a chance to meet him last night at my newly scheduled happy hour, and 5:30 to 7:30 at Carmony's Irish Pub, 308 East Superior Street. And I had the debut of my ladies, Macy and Oliver, who actually did their big debut with Paul Metsa on Wednesday. But last night they joined us, the Tilt Town Titanettes. How do you like them?
And they were fantastic.
Weren't they something?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
Cool. I'm so glad you could make it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad musicians like you, they just reach out to. I know musicians are hearing about or listening to the show because I'm getting about a...
Spread the word. If you've been on the show, spread the word to the other musicians.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's one of the things I've been doing it, for years because I've been mentored by older musicians that give me a chance to play places and get me on the radio and get me on their gigs. And so I like to return the favor and get people that, like you, cool people that I just met, to get on, and younger musicians on. But, so they're going to be with me. We're doing Fridays once again at Carmony's Irish Pub. Macy Orr and Oliver Gregerson. I just bumped into Macy at a corner store about 2.5 weeks ago, and I was hanging up posters for the Ukraine show. Right. And she goes, "Oh, you're a musician?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, I'm a musician too." I go, "Really?" She said, "I'm a singer." I said, "Sing for me." So she just turned an eye on the store and she started singing. I said, "Man, you got a beautiful voice, dude." I always like to have at least a couple singers. She goes, I said, "You know anybody else that sings?" She goes, "Yeah, my roommate Oliver sings." So she's been over my house about 2 or 3 times. And so they're going to learn the whole Metsa catalog. And, it's just been great. Hey, I've got to ask you, we were chatting a little bit last night, James Dealey. Yeah. How did you get out to Los Angeles? How long did you spend out there? And I'm happy you survived the experience.
Yeah, I was there for about 25 years. Actually,
wow.
I met a lady down in Minong, Wisconsin, and she moved out there and we got married. She unfortunately passed away in 2015. And so she's buried in Minong down there, West Wascott. And so I just moved up to where she grew up in Ashland. And that's how I ended up in Ashland. And it's been great because it's like the polar opposite of Los Angeles.
Oh, exactly.
Well, that's what I was looking for. So,
what were you doing in La Land?
Well, I was playing and recording and stuff, but then I had you don't make much money in the clubs over there. So
no.
I had a job as working in a moving and storage place. And if you live in L.A., there's obviously some famous people going through. And so we had some people, and Doyle was one of them, and he became a good friend.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to get him to play on the record, too. So
you got to.
He said he would, but he goes out on the road, these world tours with Eric Clapton, and it's hard to get him,
Right.
But the way I found out about you was I was in my car listening to a PBS station. They were interviewing you about the book.
Okay.
About Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah, it's actually called Blood in the Tracks. The Minnesota musicians behind Dylan's masterpiece.
But if you're outside this area, that was like a myth that was going around.
Sure.
Remember, they didn't get credit on the record?
That's what the book's about, kind of.
Yeah. And then you tell that incredible story.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you're not from this area, you might not know that story.
Yeah.
Unless you read your book.
Well, you got to come up then on Tuesday for my salute to Dylan at the Alhambra Theater. We're going to actually be talking to Bob Boone, who rehabbed that thing at the end of the show today.
Right.
And I will have Greg Inhofer, who played keyboard on all 5 of the tracks that recorded it at Sound 80 in Minneapolis, who didn't get credit until 2018. In fact, part of it's going to be a Salute to Dylan concert and conversation with myself, Sonny Earl, and Greg Inhofer. And then we are going to, that's part of the conversation I'm going to have with Greg. Okay. What was that like hearing that record come out and knowing that you wouldn't get credit for another 45 years?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then there's that great story about Kevin where they do, I think it's Tangled Up in Blue. And Dylan looks at him and goes, "What do you think?" He's like, "Oh, you could move it up to A if you wanted to. Give it a little more punch."
It's Pat. He said they did it in the key of G.
Yeah.
And Bob goes, "What do you think?" And Kevin goes, "It's passable." At which point Kevin goes, "I might as well just grab my guitar and leave." And he said, "Move it up to 8 would give it a little more tension." And truly, if you ever played that song, those chords really work great. And it's really what made the song. And it was Greg Inhofer who suggested that Kevin play, because Kevin got Chris Webber to track down that guitar at Chris's guitar shop at the Podium, and was there for the first night with Chris when Bob was there, and Billy Peterson and Bill Berg and Peter Strushko showed up. And then so Greg played the first night, and then the second night Greg was the one that suggested to David and Bob that they let Kevin play. So he pulled up his guitar, played a riff that he learned off a Joy Cookin record, and the rest, they say, is history.
Beautiful.
Hey, why don't you play one more song for us, James Dealey? It's been so nice. I know you and I can see guys like you and go, you and I got a lot in common, even though we've never met.
Swimming in the same ocean.
Exactly. Play one more for us, and then want to thank you for coming to the studio today.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful to see you there last night at the club at Carmody's.
Well, next time, bring your guitar and sit in.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so here's a song about jail, strippers, alcohol, and all the things I had to give up to get on the straight and narrow. This is called Loose Ends.
Grab a ticket, baby, take a chance. make 'em break for the promised land. Maybe we'll make it, yeah, well, I don't know. I'm rolling. One for the money, two for the show with these loose ends and boxes drifting down the sturdy highway. Loose ends and boxes. Is anybody going my way? Now put your money down on red or black. Don't make no difference, it ain't coming back. Roll them dice, 3 7s and 9s. Snake eyes will get you every time with these loose ends and boxes drifting down the sturdy highway. Loose ends and boxes. Is anybody going my way? Oh yeah, drifting down the sturdy highway. Gave my heart to a go-go girl. I gave her everything I had to give, yeah, but all we did was run around in circles, trying to figure out the lives we live with these loose ends and boxes drifting down the sturdy highway. Loose ends and boxes. Is anybody going my way? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Paul Metsa, Duluth, Minnesota.
That's a good sounding guitar, and that's a good sounding song. James Dealey, thanks so much for being on Stars Over the Prairie. We got another half hour going. We're going to hear from some people that keep us on the air. Then we're going to play some clips from the Ukrainian benefit from last Wednesday.
Fantastic.
And then talk to Bob Boone, a shaker and mover who's got Alhambra Theater up, running, and humming, where I'm going to be playing my Salute to Dylan this coming Tuesday with Sonny Earl and Greg Inhofer. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Gray Wolf Lodge, located on gorgeous Pelican Lake in beautiful Orr, is the great getaway in northern Minnesota. Featuring affordable, modernized cabins that rent by the week or even a few days, Gray Wolf Lodge is your place to treat the family or just yourself for a relaxing time away from it all. With great fishing, yoga classes, massage, boat rentals, a sandy beach, a common gathering area with a fire pit, and the gorgeous and rustic Gray Wolf Lodge, hosts John and Carol have thought of everything for your unforgettable stay. Give them a call at 1-800-840-9653 or go to GrayWolfLodge.com to see all that they have to offer. Gray Wolf Lodge, your home away from home in the North Woods.
I'm Sydney, and I had Z LASIK at Weiss Eye Center. Oh man, camping and like being able to look up at the stars, or like wake up to the stars or wake up to the sun and not have to kind of fumble around to see where my glasses are. So I'm looking forward to that eventually. It's like getting out and enjoying nature with sort of no barrier. Oh, the staff were really great. Yeah, it was really, always felt pretty taken care of, and very friendly staff, and they were answering my questions even if they were like really, really trivial. It's something that you gotta have like sort of a bit of trust in this doctor.
Weiss Eye Center is the only clinic to offer blade-free Z LASIK in the Northland. To find out more and to arrange your free consultation, call 218-625-1917 today. Or visit WeissEyeCenter.com for more information. Weiss Eye Center. See the best.
If you're looking for a great hang in downtown Duluth, I highly suggest Carmody's Irish Pub. They're located at 308 East Superior Street, open Tuesday through Sunday. The host and hostess are Eddie and Liz. Eddie is a retired Chicago cop. If he happens to be in the club when you're there, talk to him. He's got more stories than I do. They've also got a great jam session every Tuesday night from 8 to 11 with Bruce Woodman. So if you're a musician, tried and true, that has been out there playing and just want to go try out some new stuff, go down and hang out with Bruce and the crew. Or if you're just up and coming, bring your horn or your stringed instrument or just want to sing. Go sit in with Bruce Woodman every Tuesday night at Carmody's Pub, 308 East Superior Street.
River City Records and Books, voted best record store of 2023 in the Twin Ports by the Duluth Reader, has in stock thousands of new and used vinyl records, from classic rock to punk, grunge, and metal, to hip-hop, rap, jazz, reggae, and dub. Thousands of books, CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray, and VHS. Also a large selection of cassettes, comic books, and music magazines. Stop in and see them at 1814 West Superior Street in the friendly Lincoln Park Craft District. Open 9 to 7, 7 days a week.
Every day deserves a superior beer. Earth Rider Brewery's decorated brewers hand-select hops that lend citrus notes to the crisp and easy-drinking Superior Pale Ale. Visit Earth Rider Brewery's Cedar Lounge Tap Room on the Working Harbor in Superior for their award-winning flagship and seasonal brews on tap and to go. To find out much more about Earth Rider Brewery events, join the mailing list and locate Earth Rider Beer near you at earthrider.beer. Hold fast.
Hey, this is Charlie Parr. You are listening to Stars Over the Prairie radio show with Paul Metsa on KDAL 610 AM or 103.9 on your FM dial.
Welcome back to Stars of the Prairie. We've got a little under a half hour left here. We've got some great stuff coming up. Hey, if you're driving up north to do a little fishing or just hanging out, and you're on 53 and you're driving through Virginia, stop by my buddy Gary Flamer's Bar on the corner of Chestnut Street and 2nd Avenue. Just when you're driving on 53 going north, get over the Thomas Rookavina Bridge, take a right on 2nd Avenue, go to the main drag, and there on the northeast corner is Flamer's Bar. Play some pull tabs, have a cold beer or a very reasonable cocktail, look at some sports memorabilia, and say hi to some good Iron Rangers. Flamer's Bar, the coolest bar on the Iron Range. Like I said earlier, we had a very successful benefit for Ukraine on Wednesday night, May 14th at Sacred Heart. I want to thank all the musicians that performed. All in all, we had over 42 musicians on stage, a variety of people. You can watch the live stream and still donate to Nova Ukraine. We raised $4,000 that night. If you go to sacredheartmusic.org, you'll be able to track down that. We are going to play a few clips of some of the musicians that performed that night. These are performances from that evening. And then towards the end of this half hour on Stars of the Prairie, we're going to be talking to Bob Boone, who did a phenomenal job rehabbing and refurbishing the Alhambra Theater next to the West Theater, bringing it back to its former 1913 glory. So here we have, this is how we open the show. We had Liesl Wilson on Stars Over the Prairie a few weeks ago. She opened up the incredible performance on Wednesday with an a cappella version of the Ukrainian national anthem sung in Ukrainian. Here's Liesl Wilson.
Згинуть наші ворожі женки, як роса на сонці, запануєм і мій браття у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. І житіло
The part that I'm listening to sounded different where I was because you could hear all the echo in the Sacred Heart Music Center.
Yeah.
This is why people needed to go there live and go see music live there.
Oh,
I mean,
it's
that's a great recording, but it's not as great as it is when you're there.
Oh, and it's just and the stained glass windows and the high ceilings. I've yet to see a show there when they fire up that pipe organ. I've got to do that next time. No, donate to the Sacred Heart. It's all a volunteer-run organization, and they host such a great lineup of music. Was so enjoyable. I've been a member of the Twin Ports music community for the last 4 years, although I've been playing in Duluth for years. And I've got to know and go and be able to listen to these musicians night after night because there's so many great venues here in the Twin Ports. But a woman that we had on our radio show that came to us, Chris Allen from you, was Brianna Marie. We had her on just a few months ago. She did a great job. We're going to listen to her performance from the Benefit for Ukraine now. Brianna Marie.
I hope the broken heal and the nomads find a home. I hope when you're out there you find comfort in being alone. 'Cause there's peace in the solitude. I hope you find it. Most of all, I hope you find I hope you know this world is better with you in it. I hope you laugh one day, forget the times that you couldn't. 'Cause there's peace in the solitude. I hope you find it. Most of all, I hope you find you. I hope you understand nothing lasts forever. I hope you stand in strength and know that you matter. 'Cause there's peace in the solitude. I hope you find it. Oh, most of all, I hope. Most of all, I hope. Oh, most of all, I hope you'll find you.
Oh, man, that was great, too. That was Brianna Marie, solo performance from our last Wednesday's Benefit for Ukraine. We're going to play a little bit more music from the Mann Brothers towards the end of the show here. But right now, we've got the busiest man in the Twin Ports, Bob Boone, who's been the publisher of the Duluth Reader for the last 26, 27 years. He rehabbed the West Theater, a beautiful 1940s music theater from the 1940s, where they're doing concerts and movies. And recently, last night, reopened the refurbished Alhambra Theater, which is gorgeous, and it's like walking back in time. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that project. Bob, are you getting any sleep these days?
I did last night. 6 hours, and that's double or triple what most of the previous nights have been.
How was the opening night last night?
It was tremendous. The first show in the Alhambra Theater, the first show in 95 years, was a sellout. It was Terry Roses doing a magic box kind of magic show. And that theater seats 60 and is very intimate. Tonight, Davina from Davina and the Vagabonds will be there as a duo. The cocktail lounge in the front would be what you would imagine from The Great Gatsby or The Roaring Twenties. It's a very vintage cocktail lounge that you can reach from either the West Theater or the front door. But it was a tremendous smash.
Well, it is. I've watched it over the last year and a half, 2 years, maybe. Watch it really come to life with our good friend Mark Esklo, one of the head carpenters down there. He did such an incredible job. Bob, it's a great story. Tell us how you found out there was a vaudeville theater next to your West Theater.
Well, that is truly a ridiculous story. Goes back to 2018. I was about 2/3 of the way through building the West Theater, and a little over budget and late, which happens. And I happened to mention to my team of bankers that if that building next door ever comes up for sale, we got to buy it. And they said, "Who's we, Bob? We don't have to do anything like that." Shouldn't one theater be enough? I just remembered you've never built a theater before. I think one is enough. I said, only if it ever comes up for sale, because it's a long, skinny building immediately next to the West, so we could buy it, add another theater. The Sundance Institute says that 2-screen theaters do 3 times the profit of a single screen. We could have more concerts. It'd be perfect. Bob, forget about it. Well, I said, if it ever comes up, because it's only going to come up once in the next 10 years, and then next thing you know, it's a hair salon.
Right.
So they poo-pooed it. 3 weeks later, the building came up for sale, just by coincidence. And I called the guy, and I might be interested in your little building. He says, you bet, it's for sale. Only $200,000. And I said, $200,000 is a lot of money for that little building. And Paul says, his name is also Paul Persons. He said, that's true, but you wait till that guy finishes the theater next door, then the price will go up. Well, that was a fun thought.
That was
for him anyway.
Yeah, right.
So I said, well, that's probably a fair point, except for 2 things you aren't thinking about. And he says, what's that? Well, Kmart's about to close and wreck everybody's property values in West Duluth. Oh, that's probably true, too. What's the other thing? I'm the guy next door. There's a long silence. He says, oops. And we met anyway, and he told me the wonders about his modern HVAC and, handicapped bathrooms and things like that. And he said, if you had this building, you'd have your own little arts district forming here. And I said, well, nobody ever imagined that in West Duluth, but okay. I don't think my bankers will be too keen on this, but I thought I'd talk with you anyway. He says, well, go talk to him. It's such an obviously good idea. And I went and talked with one of my bankers who ran in terror out the door. Quick. He's over 70 and he was fast. So I called Paul back and said, I guess it isn't going to be any deal. The bankers are not at all keen. And he says, well, that's too bad. It really would have been a tremendous fit. So, sorry. Hangs up. 2 days later, he calls me back. I promise this story gets a little better. 2 days later, he calls back and he says, are you some kind of reader guy? And I said, well, I've been called that and worse. But he says, well, I got some friends who think you must walk on water because you do this reader newspaper. So he says, so I went and read one. Then. Nope, it's not for me. It's too liberal for me. But you're probably a stand-up guy, so... He says, against my wife's better judgment, I'm going to offer you a contract for deed. And he says, my price, 5.3%, which is pretty good for a commercial contract for deed. Yep. $10,000 down. Because I was over budget on the West Theater, I had like negative $40,000 to my name. But American Express had just raised my credit limit. So I knew where I could get $10,000. So I'm being very agreeable. And then he says, and a balloon in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And I said, 2.5 years isn't very long. He says, well, yeah, but you're not thinking about a couple of things. One, my wife doesn't want me to do this at all. 2, you can finish the West in a year, make money for a year, then take me out of this. 3, he says, what's your other plan? And, you had me there.
Right.
So, and it kind of sounded reasonable the way he said it, because I couldn't spell COVID yet. What could go wrong? And we shook on it, made the deal, went back and told the bankers, who said, well, we told you not to do that. No, you said you didn't want to do it. Well, I only said it that way because I knew you couldn't do it without me. So I said, well, there you go then. And they ordered me to get out of the deal, and I'd shaken on it. And then we bought a theater, or a building. The closing was supposed to be on Friday. Wednesday, Paul called back and said, Mr. Boone, I never showed you my building. And then we discovered that I had accidentally bought the long-lost Alhambra Theater.
Wow. Which
he couldn't remember the name of initially and had never bothered to mention. But then I saw the pictures and I said, well, am I in trouble now? This project just got $500,000 harder, because then I felt kind of an obligation to try and restore that. And the rest is a couple of years of sitting on it, just trying to keep the building without losing it when COVID hit. And then slowly money trickled in, and, loans and donations. And the city, to their credit, walked in and said, we've heard good things about what the West is doing for West Duluth, and we know about this other theater. When are you going to have that finished? Which was only about the 8,000th time I'd heard that question. So I said something kind of snotty like, well, when $370,000 lands on my head, city economic developer then says, well, when's that going to happen? And I said, I have no idea. Do you? And he says, yeah, we want to help.
Wow.
And the city lent me $200,000 at 6%, and remarkably thoughtfully, they said, no payments until the Alhambra opens, which was a lifesaver because it took a long time to get the theater done.
And it reopened last night, and I'm going to be honored to have one of the first musical, maybe the first musical show, My Salute to Dylan, Tuesday, May 20th, with Sonny Earl and Greg Inhofer, who played on Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks, all the keyboard parts. Although Bob Dylan played a little keyboard on there as well. You'll hear about it in the concert and conversation on Salute to Dylan. You can get tickets at the West Theater website. Go under events. Well, Bob, I want to give you credit for both theaters, but this Alhambra, trust me, it's going to be the hottest venue in town. And you relax. What's anything going on there tonight?
Yes, the Davina from Davina and the Vagabonds is doing a duo show there tonight.
Beautiful. I love Davina. I gave her one of her first big band shows at Famous Days when she just first got to town years ago. Bob, I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Keep up the great work, and if you get a chance, get a little more sleep. You're not the young buck you used to be.
That's for sure.
Thanks for being here on Stars Over the Prairie, Bob. I'll see you soon. Great work on the Alhambra and the West Theater. Keep it up, brother.
Thank you much.
Bye-bye. All right, we are going to go back to a little music from our Benefit for Ukraine. I want to thank all the musicians that took part in that and the staff at the Sacred Heart Music Center, as well as Jose and Kim, who did the great, give us a good discount. They actually work for
always
free.
Great camera work.
Oh, man, it's
I've worked with them a million times, and it's always top-notch.
And you can see the show in its glory. Just go to sacredheartmusic.org. two guys that I met when I moved to Lincoln Park 3 years ago, the Mann brothers, and that's Owen and Jacob Mann. We've had Jacob on the show. They have their band, the New Salty Dogs, which are incredible. But these guys are just born musicians, modern hippies, and the coolest guys in town. So we're going to go out on this version of Stars Over the Prairie with Jacob and Owen Mann. And then next week is going to be Bob Dylan's birthday, and we've got a lot of surprises in store, including to talk to some bigwigs from the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the meantime, here's Jacob and Owen Mann from the Benefit for Ukraine, May 14th, 2025.
I want to say to my sisters and my brothers, keep the faith when the storm flies and the wind blows. Roll on at a steady pace. When the battle is fought and the victory is won, we can all shout together, we have overcome. And we'll talk to the Father and the Son when we make it to the promised land. And we walk together, little children. We don't ever have to worry, 'cause through this world of trouble, we gotta love one another. Just take a fellow man by the hand and try to help them to understand that we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land. Our Bible reads, thou shalt not be afraid of the terror by night, and nor the arrow that flies by day, nor for the pestilence that waiteth in the darkness, and nor for the destruction that waiteth in the noonday hour. If we walk together, little children, we don't ever have to worry, 'cause through this world of trouble, we gotta love one another. Just take a fellow man by the hand and try to help them to understand that we can all be together forever and ever when we make it to the promised land. This world is not our home, we're only passing through. Our path is all made up, way beyond the blue. So let us do the very best that we can while we're traveling through this land. Or we can all be together shaking a hand when we make it to the promised land. If we walk together, little children, we don't ever have to.
All right, that was the Mann Brothers from the Benefit for Ukraine this past Wednesday at Sacred Heart. Love those guys. Go check them out. They're going to be doing soon here at Salty Dogs. They're going to be back in August at the Bent Paddle. Thanks for listening. We'd like to thank our guests today, James Seeley and Micah Frischert, and that was an incredible show. And our guest on the phone, Bob Boone. Go check out the Alhambra Theater, open there right next to the West Theater. If you've got would like to get the word out about your business, just get a hold of me at paul@paulmetsa.com. We've got real reasonable advertising rates and a committed audience here on Stars Over the Prairie. Follow me at paulmetsa.com. And like Dad used to tell me, remember to be kind,